There's a bridge hidden in the hills of Scotland where something unexplainable has been happening for decades. Dogs us jump from it, always from the same spot, always the same way. Over 300 have leapt, and no one knows why. But those who've been there, they feel it, that there's something in that place that can't be seen, but can be felt. In the mist-covered hills of Scotland, there stands an old stone bridge, quiet, forgotten by most. It arches over a narrow stream, hidden among ancient trees and a Gothic mansion frozen in time. Overtoun Bridge. From afar it seems like nothing more than a stretch of road crossing a shallow gorge. But for those who know its story, it's a place where something has gone terribly wrong. It was in the late 1950s that the first reports began to surface. Dogs, for no apparent reason, would stop in the middle of the crossing. Their tails would go still, their eyes locked onto something invisible. Then, without a sound and without hesitation, they would leap over the stone ledge. Some survived the 50-foot fall. Others weren't as lucky. But the question remained, what could make an animal behave like that? As time passed, the number grew. These weren't isolated cases. There was a pattern, always in the same area of the bridge, always on clear days, always healthy dogs. Something seemed to be calling to them, and those who have walked across that bridge swear they were never alone. Over the years, the bridge stopped being just a forgotten crossing and became a name whispered among the locals. Stories spread in markets, in pubs, through hushed conversations. Another dog jumped. Some said it was coincidence, others the sign of a curse. The number of dog deaths had passed 100. Authorities hesitated to act, but the accounts were consistent. It didn't matter the breed, size, or temperament. Friendly, playful dogs would start acting strange as they neared the bridge. They would stop, as if hearing something, stare at a point below, and then jump. Veterinarians couldn't explain it. Neither could dog trainers. Desperate owners tried to hold their pets back, but many broke free in the final moment. In every case, the leap happened from the same part of the bridge, right where the stone wall is highest. That spot became known, feared. Children weren't allowed to walk their dogs there anymore. And little by little, the bridge became wrapped in an uncomfortable silence, as if it were alive, as if it were waiting. Faced with the strangeness of the phenomenon, scientists and researchers began to study the bridge. Zoologists suggested that the scent of small animals, like minks or rodents, might be luring the dogs toward the edge. Indeed, some wildlife lived in the thick brush below. But could that explain a leap? Maybe two, not hundreds. And why always the same spot? Animal behavior experts proposed a sensory illusion, that the low wall tricked dogs into thinking there was solid ground beyond. But again, why so many? Why so determined? Psychologists even suggested that dog owners' anxiety could unconsciously influence the pets. But many of the dogs jumped with no warning, even when their owners were calm, unaware of the danger. Not even shouts or commands could stop them. None of these explanations held up against the most disturbing detail. The dogs didn't just fall, they ran and leapt, as if responding to a call only they could hear, a call coming from within the bridge or from something beneath it. Overtoun Bridge was built in 1895 using stone quarried from the very hills that surround it. It crosses a narrow gorge with a small stream flowing beneath. At first glance, nothing about it feels threatening, but there's something in the air, something hard to describe, a weight, a chill that lingers, even on sunny days. Locals say this is where the veil is thinnest. In Celtic tradition, certain places are believed to be thin spots, portals where the living and the dead are separated by only a breath. Places where emotion, grief, madness, despair can leave permanent marks. And Overtoun has its own dark history. Old records speak of rituals in the nearby woods where shamans called upon forest spirits. The mansion near the bridge, Overtoun House, was home to a family plagued by illness, tragedy, and suicides. It's said that a woman driven mad still wanders the halls, speaking to voices only she can hear. Some claim to see her figure in white among the trees, watching silently. If the bridge was built atop a spiritual fault line, then perhaps the dogs, more sensitive than we are, can feel what we cannot. Perhaps they are not leaping, but running from something, from... Even after more than half a century, Overtoun Bridge still claims victims. Over 300 documented cases of dogs jumping, and dozens of owners who watched it happen before their eyes. The stories are nearly identical. The dog is happy, playful, walking beside them, then stops. The fur rises, the body goes tense, and in an instant, it runs and leaps. He never did that before, they all say. He was calm, obedient. Some survive the fall and, even badly injured, try to climb back up, only to leap again, as if hypnotized, as if something called to them, and they couldn't resist. One of the most chilling cases happened in 2004. Donna Cooper was walking her Labrador, Ben, when he suddenly stopped on the bridge, looked down, and jumped. She ran to him. He was alive, in shock. She took him to the vet, but days later, Ben escaped the house, returned to the bridge, and jumped again. This time, he died instantly. Police put up warning signs urging owners to leash their dogs. But signs don't stop legends. Tour guides refuse to bring visitors with pets, and some say the energy there affects people too, causing dizziness, chills, or an overwhelming sense of dread. Maybe it's not just a legend. Maybe the bridge isn't the problem. Maybe it's just the doorway. Beyond science and statistics, some believe that Overtoun Bridge is built over something that doesn't belong to this world. A spiritual fracture, a tear between what we see and what watches us from the other side. Mediums who visited speak of voices rising from the stream, of cold presences in the woods, of tall figures walking beneath the arches, faces blurred, vanishing when confronted. It's believed the surrounding land was once avoided by ancient tribes, considered cursed, a place for the dead to pass through. If those theories are true, then the dogs, more instinctive than humans, might feel something we can't. A frequency beyond sound, a silent invitation to cross, to disappear. The leaps always happen on clear days, in absolute silence, from the same spot, like a ritual, as if something waits patiently. And the dogs, entranced, answer, connected, willing, ready. Maybe the bridge isn't the end of the road. Maybe it's the start of somewhere else, somewhere no one should ever know. Not everyone who crossed Overtoun Bridge was pulled into the void. Some made it back, but none were left unchanged. Many visitors report strange sensations as they approach. Sudden nausea, blurred vision, vertigo. Others describe shifts in temperature, as if the air thickens, as if something unseen is watching. One woman told how, walking her dog across the bridge, everything went still. The forest went silent. The wind stopped. Her dog froze for minutes, staring into nothing, then began to whimper and refused to move forward. She turned back. She never returned. Another man heard a woman whispering his name behind him. When he turned, no one was there. But the voice whispered again, 3 times. He dropped his flashlight and ran. He never spoke of it again. But to this day, he dreams of the bridge. Always the same, always the voice. These survivors say Overtoun isn't just cursed, it's aware. A presence that lives in the stone, the moss, the silence. It doesn't attack, it influences, it infiltrates, it whispers what no one should ever hear. Overtoun may not be alone. Around the world, there are places where animals behave strangely, where people vanish, where nature bends logic. Thin places, spots where reality is weaker, where something crosses over. In Norway, entire herds of reindeer have walked off cliffs without warning. In Japan, dozens of cats disappeared after crossing the same small bridge. In Brazil, stories tell of drivers hearing voices calling from the trees, luring them off deserted roads. Coincidence? or the same force in different forms. Science calls them zones of silence or magnetic anomalies. But the ancients had another word, forbidden, marked by symbols, avoided at dusk, protected from animals. Not out of fear, but out of respect for what animals sensed. Maybe Overtoun is not unique. Maybe it's just the loudest, the boldest, a visible scar on the fabric of this world, a fixed point where the veil is so thin it can be crossed, without anyone noticing, until it's too late. Overtoun is no longer just a location, it's a symbol. News outlets, documentaries, online forums, all try to explain what happens there. Thrill seekers and ghost hunters cross it just to feel something. But the locals aren't amused. Most avoid talking about it. To them, the bridge carries a weight, a silence that listens. The media called it the dog suicide bridge. But locals say that word doesn't fit. The dogs weren't depressed. They weren't lost. They were taken, as if something pulled them from inside. As if the jump wasn't a choice, but a response. Fame brought more visitors, and with them, more deaths. Dogs still jump. Some believe the bridge is growing stronger the more it's spoken about, that it feeds on attention, that it is in some way conscious. Today, warning signs stand at the entrance, but signs don't stop mysteries, and they don't explain why so many deaths happen in the same way, in the same place, year after year. The truth is, no one knows what happens there, and maybe no one should. The bridge still stands, cold, quiet, crossed each day by strangers who have no idea what they're stepping on. Some say there's nothing wrong with Overtoun, that it can all be explained with logic, just bad luck, just instinct. But why then does the feeling linger after you leave? Why do so many report chills, strange dreams, or the sense of being watched? Maybe we'll never know. Maybe what hides beneath the bridge isn't a creature, but a memory, an echo, a sorrow that loops endlessly, begging to be heard, to be freed. And maybe the dogs hear it, they feel it, and they answer. There is no ending to this story because the bridge still stands, and as long as it does, the call remains. Low, subtle, unseen. If you ever cross it and your dog stops, stares downward, maybe it's just the wind, or maybe it's not.